We're back. In today's video, I have a new document from Mastercard mentioning XRP as a bridge currency. We're also going to discuss how Visa has been preparing to work with Ripple and XRP. We're going to discuss some key changes that are happening inside of the XRP ecosystem, especially here with Franklin Templeton being delayed for their spot XRP ETF. What's going on here? We're going to discuss that, plus a ton of other news, guys. I hope you get some value out of the content I provide. If you do, make sure to subscribe and please hit like and leave a comment below if you so choose to. So here is the post here. A new Mastercard document mentions XRP as a bridge currency. As you can see here, Ripple SBI Remit is using Ripple's XRP as a bridge currency. So we've known for a long time that Mastercard is very aware of what Ripple has been doing. And instead of going against Ripple, Mastercard has been working with Ripple. You remember over the past few years, Visa and Mastercard have actually got into bidding wars over Ripple partners. So these companies that have been working with Ripple and of course XRP, Visa and Mastercard have been trying to find ways to buy companies that use this technology because they need access to it. They understood a very long time ago that Ripple was probably going to be a leader in the blockchain infrastructure space. And so Mastercard makes sure that they're prepared. And you can also see like Thunes is here too. That's also another Ripple partner with Brightwell. And of course, Western Union, MoneyGram, Stellar, etc., etc. And so here are those connections that I was telling you about just a second ago. 2019, Visa acquired Earthport, a Ripple-enabled company that connects to RippleNet and that could use XRP for cross-border payments. This gives Visa access to XRP's liquidity and settlement capabilities through Earthport's infrastructure. With Earthport now under Visa, the foundation is in place for XRP to play a major role in global payments. Visa's 2025 report shows a clear focus on crypto, and XRP is well positioned to support their cross-border efforts. I want to ask you a question. You know, you've been in the space probably for some time. I know some of you just got here, but a lot of you have been here for a while. When you take a look around at the top 10, top 50, top 100 tokens, what stands out the most? I mean, who's got the technology that institutions are itching to partner with? The only reason Ripple really hasn't taken over the world by now is because they were delayed in the United States because of the SEC. Now all of that has been lifted. Ripple is key and pointed to be the biggest blockchain infrastructure company on the planet, hands down. And with that comes a lot of responsibility. And with that will come a lot of the world's value onto the XRP ledger. So here's the Earthport acquisition in 2019. And it was really interesting to see all of this play out at the time. I wish I had my channel up in 2019. We could have really talked about this in real time. And of course, here is a document saying, you know, Ripple, this is a Ripple document that they showed institutions, Facebook, Google, Uber, Airbnb, all of these companies could use Ripple and XRP to facilitate payments. Imagine an Uber driver getting paid for every delivery or every ride that they give that day. The reason payroll only happens once or twice a month, you've heard me say this a bunch, is because it's very costly. It's expensive. With blockchain, you could do this for all under a penny, which means people's everyday, day-to-day life could be better. And it says, this is from Smoke. Yes, people will use XRP without even knowing it. Ripple's protocol is designed to move value instantly across borders, whether that value is in dollars, gold, energy, or even services. Just like email relies on SMTP to work behind the scenes, Ripple does the same for money. As the document below explains, the Ripple protocol can be compared with SMTP, which is the protocol for email that enables different email services to communicate regardless of the service used. You do not see SMTP when you send an email. You will not see Ripple when money moves. All right. And so here is that particular document that they were referring to. It says Ripple is the Universal Internet Protocol founded in 2012. And then here is the connection with SMTP. And then down here you have euros, dollars, pounds, but also barrels of oil, hours of electricity, services, and so much more. Remember, the Bitcoin blockchain is extremely slow, only 7 transactions per second. If you've ever sent Bitcoin to a friend, or if you've ever cashed Bitcoin out from an exchange, you know that you're waiting for quite some time. And the more time that goes by, the more nervous that feeling gets that you might have done something wrong. Have you ever like sent a transaction, then you're like, it hasn't shown up. So you have to go back and like search the transaction history and see like, hey, did I send this to the right wallet? That's not a good feeling. Using XRP, you can get that same value there using Bitcoin instantaneously. So it says customers of financial institutions do not need to know anything about Ripple or its protocol, obviously, to use it. And here are some other connections that Rob Cunningham pointed out here. Ripple founded 2012. And here are some of the partnerships they've made along the way. Google Ventures, Anderson Horowitz, IDG Capital, FF Angel, Founders Fund, Lightspeed Venture Partners, Pantera Capital, Bitcoin Opportunity Fund, and Camp One Virtues. And then here is, of course, some of the Ripple partnerships that we've, known to Ripple has been with these for quite some time. Here you have Bank of England, you have Deloitte here, which is one of the top 4, DBS, right? Royal Bank of Canada, Westpac. I don't know of another blockchain infrastructure company that has as many institutional partners. I've never seen anything like it. I know there's like HBAR has a very impressive council with some of the biggest companies in the world, but when you're talking about financial institutions, forget about it. All right. And then you also start to wonder how much of this value is going to come on chain and how quickly will it come on chain, right? Is this going to be a slow drip, right? We upload $1 billion on chain every day, or is it going to be, testing the waters and then a big rush to move all of this value instantaneously? I think the governments like the United States understand that sooner or later, the old SWIFT system may be very vulnerable, especially as technology advances and hackers get better at what they do. When you're talking about quantum computers, I think there's a real worry there that the old system might not be secure. And so when will this wind up on blockchain, right? Is it going to be over the next 2 to 3 years, 5 to 10 years, or is it going to take longer? Personally, I think over the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see, 10, 20, $50 trillion come on chain. And, once they feel very comfortable doing this, I can imagine that the rest of it will follow. 2.8 million is how much money I was able to make in the crypto market in 2021 with help from my community and of course, my close friends. Never in my life ever before have I even come close to making $1 million, let alone almost 3xing that number. I was able to do this because I quickly understood the crypto market and where to get valuable information before everybody else. The key to the crypto market, if you haven't learned this already, is to be early and to only get into real utility projects that will stand the test of time. There's a lot of really important DeFi and tokenization on real world asset projects that are going to be here over the next 5 to 10 years that are going to just explode in price. And we have that information that I'm sharing every single day with you inside of Cryptonaires. If you want to take your journey in crypto to the next level and you want to make insane amounts of money, you need to first understand what you are doing in the space and where to find the best information. If you can start doing that, you can make some big changes in your life in the crypto space. And then it says, Peersys Technology says the XRPL EVM testnet is expanding its interoperability. Remember, I showed this maybe a week or two ago, how many different companies and developers are interested in building, on the XRPL using this EVM sidechain. The whole the thing that's kept us back the most, obviously, was the SEC lawsuit, but it's also been developers building on the network, right? And so if we can get 500 or 1,000 new developers building on the XRP ledger, though all of those different systems and the DeFi protocols, whatever it is that they are building, are going to require XRP and RLUSD. And so the more value we can transact and capture on the ledger through these partnerships, the better we will be. So Eleanor Tarrant posted this. The SEC Gov has delayed making a decision on Franklin Templeton's XRP spot ETF on June 17th. Really quickly, you know how, let me see here, Twitter. I'm trying to get Sal XRP ETF 24-hour 2x. I can never say the company's name correctly. Tcrium, this company. So I am in talks with the CEO to try to bring them into my live chat on Friday. The schedules are kind of very difficult for this gentleman, but I will make an announcement on Thursday if I'm able to get the CEO into Sensei Chat. That would happen at 3:30 on Friday. It'd be really cool to have him, and I can ask him a bunch of questions, and I also can take questions from you and we can talk to him. So Securities and Exchange Commission, here it is, self-regulatory organizations, SIBO, BZX Exchange, notice of designation of a longer period for commission action on a proposed rule to list and trade shares of the Franklin XRP fund under BZX. So it looks like on March 13, 2025, filed with Securities and Exchange Commission pursuant to section yada, yada, yada. The act provides within a 45 days of the publication of the notice, the filing of a proposed rule change. So, we'll get some more information as this plays out, but right now it looks to be delayed. So Kenny Nguyen posted this. Remember this, now it has become a reality with the approval from the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Treasury, the U.S. FDIC, and the U.S. OCC. So the interesting part here is if you take a look at Ripple, the company, whether it's the board or people that actually work at Ripple, they hire directly from the federal government. So, if usually every 4 years, a lot of positions change as new administrations come in. And so a lot of these people, look for private sector work. And it's interesting to see how many people from the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Treasury, the FDIC, and the OCC have actually come to work with Ripple and give them advice on what they're doing in the United States space. And it says, High Vibe put this out. It gets deeper. Ripple has officially built the Internet of Value, Ripple and Bank of International Settlements, BIS, right? So Ripple not only has connections in the federal government and people coming from the federal government to work at Ripple, but they also have connections with some of the biggest institutions like the BIS, like the International Monetary Fund, like the European Central Bank. If you want to pause this and read this, please do so. This is a lot of information that we've already gone through already, so I don't want to waste too much of your time here. And it says, look at who is on the advisory board, former FDIC chair Sheila Bair, right? Like I said, Ripple hires some of the best people to represent them. And you also have Greg Kidd, formerly of Ripple, talks Ripple first introduction to the U.S. Treasury. Listen up.
It's amazing because I don't know how many people out here know that you come from compliance. You come from a world of compliance inside the Federal Reserve. So this is a world you're very familiar with. In fact, years ago, you were one of the first people to join Ripple and you helped get them compliant and get them there. Were you also like the person who introduced them to the Fed because you also came from the Fed? Talk about that a little bit.
I think it was a 10th person at Ripple. And I did go with Chris early on to Treasury. I think it was kind of a shocker for Treasury in DC, because they realize, oh my gosh, this is a global, worldwide permissionless chain. Mm-hmm. And, their heads were like spinning by the time we walked out the door. So that's back in the days when we thought we were going to get in trouble for being money. Then we found out, no, we're like a security. Now we're a commodity. It's like liquid, solid gas. It was one of those exercises. But yeah, in the early days, nobody knew what this was. So we were the first to go to Treasury and explain what this was.
Ripple, the first to go to Treasury and explain what this was. What I'm trying to show you here is Ripple has been working with the federal government for over a decade. They were the first blockchain infrastructure company to actually go in and show them what was capable using blockchain. That is why Ripple was on the Faster Payments Task Force and every other task force that the U.S. put together for faster payments. Now, it'll be interesting to see what the Trump administration does, right? Because we do have FedNow, and FedNow is supposed to be a instant payment system, within like the first 10 to 20 seconds. You can use XRP, Algorand, and a few other assets inside of that system, but are they going to build a new system on top of that system? Or are they going to use crypto within the FedNow system? I think that is the big question that I have.